Good morning and welcome to this week's IGTV. I am talking about why your teenager is picking those people. I mean, you are not dating that person. Your teenager is like, you don't know why they're picking these people and it's worrying you. You don't want them in their house. You've tried controlling, you've tried grounding and consequences, but that isn't working and you're scared. Is this a pattern or are they just trying to piss you off and literally give you a lot of gray hair? If this sounds familiar to you, then you are in the right place. I am going to cover why this happens and what you can do about it today. So stick with me and you'll get the tips and insights that I think will help you through this very challenging and very real, frightening time. My name is Allie Payne. I am a certified life coach, a certified relationship systems coach, and I have been working with parents of teens for the last 15 years to help them to close the lost in translation gap so that they end the painful disconnection, the stressful silences and emotional blow-ups, and create relationships built on trust and respect. I was a very troubled teen and I picked some less than savory people. So I know I put my parents through this exact thing. And as a parent of teens, I can now see the other side of this. And there's some science behind this that is critical that when you understand, it might help you take a little bit of a breath and stop holding your breath. Because this is very real and concerning. I want to say one thing before I jump in. My signature program, the Empowered Parent Mastermind, it started on January 24th, but don't worry. You haven't missed out because for the first time ever, this program is now available in a self-paced option. I've wanted to do this for over a year when I created the program, but of course it takes a lot of technical and background. Anyway, it's ready. If you hit the link in my bio, you will see the Empowered Parent Mastermind self-paced option and early bird savings are available until Monday, February 7th. There's a payment plan. It's still guaranteed. You still get lifetime access. It's all in a self-paced option. So you didn't miss out. And I know that timing is everything. So perhaps this self-paced option is something that fits what you're looking for with your teen right now. So you can find that in the link in my bio. All right, let's dive in, shall we? I've got my notes here as per the usual, because that's how I roll. If you're here on Instagram, thank you for joining me. Give me a follow. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. I'm always grateful that you are watching this content, and I hope that you find it valuable. Okay, so how do you stop your teenager from picking or dating these less than savory people that is literally giving you like racked with worry, your sleepless nights, and a lot more gray hair than what you bargained for at your age? All right. Here's the big thing. You cannot control who your teenager picks. Period. Exclamation point. Sorry. I'm so glad. Thank you for being here. Thank you. I'm glad you find this helpful. Hi, Cheryl. Okay. You cannot control who your teenager picks. You can't. So let's work with that first. Now, here's what happens if you try to control who your teenager is choosing in a significant partner. Now, this might be a best friend. If you're watching this right now and you're like, well, it's not really who they're dating, but it's like their bestie that Okay, well then, yeah, absolutely, Julie. Thank you for asking that. It's the same thing. This will apply, okay? Here's what happens when you try and control them. You are saying, maybe you're grounding, maybe you are trying to set a boundary, which I'm sorry, right now I'm going to call you out. That's not a boundary. That's trying to control. Okay. And you say to your teenager, oh no, well, they're not welcome at our house, or you are not going out to see them. Or they say, hey, can I go out on Friday? And you say, well, that depends. Who are you going with? Because I understand where you're going with that. When you make that person off limits, or that relationship off limits, you are now creating a forbidden fruit. Now it's more attractive to be, because, there's something wrong with it. My parents don't like this. Now I'm even more curious. If I'm not allowed and I'm trying, and also teenagers will literally, by the wiring of their brain, because they are going through differentiation and their entire job is to start making more independent decisions, developing critical analysis and risk taking. You have just made what they're, by the inherent nature of them feeling controlled, they are now going to go and want more of what it is you don't want them to do. So that's why the control doesn't work. Okay. I'm going to take you through this, the steps on this. Okay. So, here's what also you have to be very, very careful of. And this, I hear this from parents all the time. When you are, or if you are not in favor of this person that your teenager chose, whether it's a significant, like a romantic relationship or a bestie or whatever, and you start making derogatory comments, like even little teeny, even the tiniest derogatory comments about the person your teenager chose, that is another way to guarantee that your teenager is going to pick that unsavory person over you. Because making derogatory comments is, remember, the teenage brain is wildly susceptible to criticism, judgment, and comparison. So even though those comments are about their choice, not about, like, you're not saying it to your teenager about them personally, you're saying it about their choice, I have news for you. You are saying it about your teenager because it's your teenager's choice. That person that they chose is a reflection of your teenager. It's a reflection of your teenager in some way. So when you make derogatory comments or you drop little whatever it is, your teenager is taking that personally, and you are creating a division, and unknowingly you are creating a division between you and your teenager, and I promise you, your teenager is going to pick that other person over you. I mean, let's just consider this for 1 second. Let's say you had a friend who was constantly making just tiny, like passive aggressive little negative digs against your partner, your child, who do you want to like go spend more time with that person? No. Do you take it personally? Hell yeah, you do. Of course you take it personally. Because your partner is a reflection of you. Because your child is DNA, like physically a reflection of you. So you take it personally. So does your teenager. So don't go making derogatory comments as if somehow that's going to turn your teenager off of that bestie or that primary partner that you are really not in favor of. Okay? So zip it. No derogatory comments, at least so long as your teenager is anywhere near earshot. Okay? Hi, Elle. Okay. Second thing. I hear this from parents all the time. So let's just nip it in the butt. This is all over social media. This is in my communities. I see this where parents are vilifying their teenager's choice. As in, here's what I mean. The person that their teenager chose, this unsavory person, boyfriend, girlfriend, bestie, is the source of all the problem. all of the problems are over there with that person. Here's what I hear. That she's just such a needy girlfriend that she's stealing my son's attention. But is she though? Or he's so controlling that now my daughter can't do anything and she was fine before him and him, he's bad, she's bad. Can we stop now? Stop it. I understand and I hear you that this person may not be a great influence on your teenager. I absolutely agree with you on that. But here's the problem when you vilify your teenager's choice. Number one, you are putting all the blame and therefore the entire solution on this person you don't like. When you vilify that person, you also avoid having to look at yourself and what is going on in your connection and your relationship with your teenager. You stop yourself from ever having to look at your teenager as part of this. And what is it that's going on for them that has them making these choices? So you are, because here's what's going to end up happening. You can vilify that person. You can blame them. You can control your teenager and say, you're not going to see them and you're staying in the house. You're grounded for life. No more picking people like that. And then let's just say by some act of God, I don't know, your teenager actually says, okay, I won't do that. Guess what? It's going to go and happen again. And again, and again, and again. Because you are putting the blame outside. You are not taking ownership. Now, I'm not saying this is your fault. If that's what you're hearing, that is not what I'm saying. This is not your fault. You're an amazing parent. I know you love your child hard. I know your child is a good person too. But so long as you're putting the blame outside, you will not find the answers. Not place fault. Ugh, I don't have room for that. I don't have room for fault and blame. It does literally nothing. That's for courts of law, okay? Not for relationships. It keeps you from seeing the solution as far as what's going on in our house that might be feeding my teenager's need to seek this kind of person. What is going on for my teenager and how can I connect with them differently so that I can better understand why they're going to make these choices? Okay? So be careful of that. All right. Let's move on. Okay. So I'm just checking my notes here because if I don't keep notes, you never know what's going to happen. Your teenager's choices in a bestie or a boyfriend or whatever are a reflection of their love language. Do you know your teenager's love language? Do you know yours? This is what I cover in module 2 of my Empowered Parent Mastermind, which is now available in a self-paced option, that you can do to discover your love languages. So the 5 love languages were derived from Dr. Gary Chapman and his decades of relationship work. And basically the premise is that our brains are default wired to receive love. In other words, 5 different ways of receiving love that hit the dopamine, the serotonin, oxytocin pleasure centers for an experience of love. Okay. And the 5 love languages are words of affirmation, physical touch, acts of service, gifts, and quality time. Okay. You can look up the details or I can send you an article. If you message me, I'll be happy to do that. Your teenager. So what Dr. Gary Chapman has proven is that as human beings, you give love in the way you like to receive it. You give love in the way that you like to receive it. That doesn't mean that that's the kind of love language your teenager needs. This happened in my upbringing my whole life. My mom also came from a very, if you're new here, I came from a very emotionally abusive, somewhat physically abusive, traumatic background. My mother was also wildly abused. And so she didn't know how to give love because she literally was never shown. My love languages were words of affirmation and physical touch. Well, if you just heard what I said, basically everything that I heard in my house was either neutral or negative with verbal abuse. And physical touch, there was no hugging. The only physical touch that was consistent was painful. So that's how I received my two love languages, words of affirmation and physical touch, were not met in my house. That doesn't mean my mom didn't try really hard, and that doesn't mean that she loved me in the way that she could. I'm not throwing her under the bus. But it did play into my level of promiscuity and what I sought in friends and boyfriends, because my love languages were not met at home. So that's a number one reason why your teenager is going outside of your home and picking less than savory people, is not because, again, this isn't about that you're a bad parent. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's really important that you do this work to find this out and give your teenager the love that they need in a love language that they receive, not in the way that you like to receive love. Okay, so my oldest is not a physical touch person. And it took me a long time to not take that personally, because I was going to be the mom that hugged their kids, and I was going to be the mom that always gave their kids a kiss on the cheek, and he hates it. He literally hates it. And so I had to stop. I stopped with him. And guess what? My second love language, words of affirmation, that's also not his. His is quality time. So that was a real struggle for me to love him in a way that worked for him, not in the way that I wanted to be loved. Okay, so moving on. There's also attachment styles, which I'm not going to go into huge detail here, but your teenager's attachment style, even though you raised your child, is not necessarily your attachment style, is not necessarily theirs. So you might be like a really hands-off parent, and that works for you. And maybe your teenager likes a lot more, this is a negative connotation, I'm sorry, micromanaging. Thank you so much. I'm glad you're here. They want a lot more input. They want a lot more attention. They want more hand holding, I think is what I'm trying to say. I don't mean that in a negative way. Maybe you're a kind of parent who wants to do or is more inclined to do micromanaging and hand holding, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I'm sorry, I don't have a better way to explain that. And your teenager is more very hands off. And so they're going to be like, woo, no. And they're going to internet. Sorry, guys. They're going to go find someone who meets their attachment style. Okay? So that's another reason that they are going to pick people that you are not in favor of. Okay, third reason. And this one is studied by Dr. Brené Brown. I hear this all the time from teenagers. Did you get that? I hear this all the time from teenagers. It is the science behind fitting in and belonging. Okay? So belonging is that you love and accept me for all of my messiness, quirks, annoying habits, and you love me for all of it, and I'm welcome with you. I feel loved and accepted for who I am with you. That's belonging. Fitting in is where I need to deny, suppress, or abandon part of myself to feel loved by you. That is what teenagers tell me they feel at home. And Dr. Brené Brown's research shows that one of the most painful forms of rejection is when teenagers feel they need to fit in at home. So in order to feel loved and accepted by you, your teenager needs to deny, suppress, or abandon any part of themselves. Okay? Now, again, I'm not saying you're a bad parent. I'm not saying that your kid's a bad kid. I'm saying this is a unfortunate, normal disconnection between parents and teens because sorry you guys, I'm so frustrated with this internet. Anyway, we haven't been taught this. So I don't know how else we'd know. Okay. So, there's fitting in and belonging. Now, under the fitting in part, okay, where teenagers feel, if your teenager feels in any way they need to deny, suppress, or abandon part of themselves to be loved by you, they are going to go pick unsavory people. I promise you, 100%, I promise you. I also felt very much as a child I had to fit in. I was absolutely not welcome as who I was in my house. My family was much more introverted. I know I'm an extreme extrovert, but my family was much more introverted. They were very appropriate, proper, lovely people, giving, kind, and I was loud and chaotic, and I was more self-centered. So I was all kinds of embarrassing and wrong. And different was wrong and bad, because that's generationally what we've been told. And so I was wrong and bad. So I didn't feel I belonged in my own house ever. In fact, I didn't feel like I belonged in my family. I don't know, for some 40 years. I'm just saying. So I went out and picked unsavory people because my need to belong, it is our human need in our brains. It is my human desire to feel like I belonged. It's an unconscious, powerful driving need. So I went out and picked unsavory people to feel like I belonged. Okay, so that is another reason why I do the Empowered Parent Mastermind, and all of the programs that I run is to help you connect with your teen at a deeper level so you understand the emotional underpinning of relationship skills and nuances, so that when you parent, you connect with your teen, they feel like they belong and they don't need to go pick unsavory people to feel loved. That's what I do. I was that teenager. So, okay. The other thing is, again, teenagers are wildly susceptible to judgment, comparison, and criticism. Their brains are unfortunately very raw. I'm not just like holding my hand. This is the Daniel Siegel model, hand model of the brain. Their amygdala is not fully covered for some time as their brain is actually growing, not just developing, it is growing. And so you could be syrupy sweet. You can be like the most loving parent in the land. You can win parent of the century. And your teenager will still say that there are comments that you are making to them that have them feel judged, criticized, or compared to something else. So you do need to be cautious of your words because their brain is so susceptible to that. But that's another reason why your teenager wants to go fit in. It's also why peer pressure is so wild. Why this unsavory person, this bestie or whoever they're choosing as a primary partner, might have them doing things like using illegal substances, constantly lying, staying out late, like you name it, all the things, because they feel like they belong with that person. And that's why gangs, are so powerful for teenagers, because they provide that sense of belonging, even though it's very unhealthy. It's very unhealthy. They provide that false sense of belonging to the teenage brain. Okay, the next thing is why, again, vilifying who they choose is not helping you to be part of the solution. Your teenager is role-playing something. We learn about relationships and what we believe is normal at home. So, what your teenager believes as normal is what they are now starting to, like when your toddler first started walking, like Taylor's watching, you can relate to this. Like when they first start getting up and standing on their feet, your teenager is doing that. They're starting to walk in relationships. And they are playing out what they have perceived is normal and good or right about relationships. So if your teenager is picking needy people, which I do not love that label, quite frankly. I think it's very derogatory. I was really needy, but it was because I was also traumatized. I was horribly insecure and desperately needing acceptance and love. So you could call me needy or not, but I'm not a fan of the label. If your teenager's picking people like that, like me, like who I was, then your teenager probably has a view that rescuing makes them a good person. Fixing other people's problems makes them a good person. Overcompensating by trying to help someone else manage the emotions that they can't handle, plus their own, that makes them a good person. Is this ringing true for you? Your teenager is modeling what they believe is normal and good in a relationship, whether it's their bestie or it's a romantic relationship. If your teenager feels that if your teenager is very insecure and lacking confidence, which as I was, and is normal in the teenage brain, their self-confidence can drop up to 30%, they may be susceptible to being controlled. They may go and pick someone who's very controlling or manipulative and allow that person to treat them that way because they don't believe in themselves enough to say no. Or they believe that's part of their attachment style, which I talked about earlier, is they want someone to tell them what to do. They want someone to be a little more involved. And maybe your attachment style is more hands-off. It's just all about knowledge so that you can better connect with your teenager. If your teenager's picking someone who is doing all the risky things, that's normal for a teenage brain to be seeking risky behavior. It is normal for them to lack impulse control and emotional regulation. And so there's something really juicy about that unsavory person for them. That's like, ooh, I would want to go do that, but I'd never go do it myself. So then maybe there's something about your family that our teenagers said this to us, by the way. My teenagers said this to us, is that there's ways where our family are totally not rule followers. Like we are march to our own drum. We do it our way. We're highly independent and stubborn. And that met my teenagers' needs for a little bit of edgy stuff. But then there's a lot of ways where our family is very routine. We're very habitual. And our teenagers found that really boring. It was safe, but they found it really boring. And so this was interesting to hear from our teenagers where they wanted more spontaneity to go meet their need for adventure in a healthy, constructive. This internet's driving me mad. Anyway, and then there was ways where we were too outside of the line for them and they didn't appreciate it. And so it's just an interesting conversation to have with your teenager to better understand why they're choosing these people. Okay. The last thing I want to say is confidence and importance. As your teenager's self-esteem drops, I see a lot of this, particularly, I should be careful. I am going to say I hear the majority of this about young teen boys, that teen boys, if they are feeling, and I'm sorry, but if they are seeing demasculation or they don't necessarily look up to their dads or they have a dad who isn't as present in their life, they tend to go and pick girls who need a lot from them because they desperately want to feel like the man. They want to feel confident. They want to feel needed. They want to feel appreciated. They want to feel like they matter. They want to be told over and over how amazing they are. And there's nothing wrong with any of that. They're just not getting enough of that, not all of it, but enough of that at home, so they go outside and seek it. So a lot of that is confidence building. It's confidence building. Yes, this is really hard, and there's so much emotional underpinning to this, which is why that's a great deal of what I talk about in all of my programs. We can talk about behavior until we're blue in the face, but all behavior is driven by emotions, values, and beliefs. So if we can't connect there, it's highly unlikely any behavior is ever going to change. And that's why I teach that in all of my programs. You can help them, okay? But you can't control them. All right. So then what do you do? So what do you do? Okay. So I've said all these things. Now what do you do? Well, I'm going to tell you a couple stories. So I had a boyfriend for 2 years, from the age of 15, almost 16, to almost 18. My parents, they were okay with him. They didn't hate him. They were okay with him. They didn't love him. But in a way, I kind of wonder if anyone would have been good enough for my parents, because they were very, very strict and they loved me. So my parents, I'm going to tell you why I picked him. Okay. I picked him because he and I essentially, literally cried, not breathing, laughing every day. Cried, not breathing, snorting, laughing almost every day. That's my personality style. Light and fun. That's my personality style. I came from a home where everything was negative, hard, heavy, painful. There was no laughter. There was no room for fun. Fun was frivolous and there was no time for it. Again, my parents aren't bad people. They came from environments where it was all about survival. And so there was no room for fun. So I sought him out because we had so much fun. We did the stupidest, craziest things, not like dangerous, life-threatening, but we did the stupidest, craziest things. It was spontaneous. We had fun. We laughed. That's why I picked him. He also met my need for physical touch, my love language, and I don't necessarily mean sexual, but yes, but also words of affirmation. He said kind things to me, and I was starving for that. So I literally would have been friends with anybody who said kind. I was, actually. That's why I picked a whole lot of wrong people, because I was starving to feel loved in a way that was meaningful for me. Now, my parents still included him when they couldn't deny that he was my boyfriend anymore. Like 6 months became a year, became 18 months. My parents were very good about including him in my birthday dinner, certain family events, some camping. Like a camping, like certain things. He was important to me, so they were good about including him. So if your teenager picks an unsavory person, no derogatory comments about them, no vilifying them. You're going to include them within certain boundaries in your home, okay? Like maybe you don't smoke in your house, maybe you don't vape in your house, maybe you don't like smoke weed, I don't know, whatever. But you're going to include them, because what you're saying to your teenager is, I love you enough to try my best to love the people that you love. I love you enough to do my very best to love the people that you love within boundaries, okay? So you include the boyfriend or the girlfriend at family dinners, some family functions. You do your best to include that person, again, within reason. You ask your teenager about this person they're choosing. What do they like? What don't they like? Where are they from? Where are they? Just get curious about this boyfriend, girlfriend, or bestie. And I don't mean interrogation. There's a difference between interrogation and curiosity, okay? You get curious about, yeah, Taylor, I totally agree with you. I wish my parents knew some of this stuff too. You get curious about that person. You show interest in the person they have interest in, okay? That's what you do. Non-judgmentally, just be curious. Okay, so you include them when possible within respectful boundaries. You get curious about who they're curious about. You also can set boundaries about, like, my parents were like no sleepovers kind of people. So there was no sleepovers, but he and his mom, she was a single parent. So I would go over there every Saturday night and we'd make dinner, and the three of us would, this internet. Okay. The three of us would sit and like watch Saturday Night Live. And then I would go home at like 1 a.m. when Saturday Night Live was over. But my parents would let me do that because his mom was home and the three of us were there. So yes, you need to have boundaries. Yes, you need to keep the conversation going with your teenager about what is good choices and what is not. But the minute that you try and put all the bad choices on the person they're choosing, it's not going to work well. This is why it is so important to help your teenager develop a lens for. And I did a whole video on this. If you can't find it, message me on Instagram. I'll get it to you. Helping your teenager develop healthy relationships. Yes, so this is exactly what I'm getting to. So if you've included him, you're doing all those things, and your teen is still being treated badly but wants to be with him, then you start talking about this. Start talking about, what does respect mean to you? Now, I'm going to tell you the adult brain can barely answer that, so the teenage brain's not going to answer it really well. But you talk about, well, what relationships do you feel respected in? Like, what relationships do you like being in the most? And why? What words, phrases, and behaviors are present that has you like that relationship? To help your teenager develop their own lens for what respect is. How do you, like, what does describe a person in your life that you respect? Why do you respect them? Maybe look up the definition of respect. So you both are playing the game. Who do you respect, and who do you feel respects you? And how do you know? What words, phrases, and behaviors are present so that you know? Who do you trust? And by the way, trust is a massive concept for the brain. So again, look it up. Brené Brown's definition is great. Who do you trust and why? What words, phrases, and behaviors are present so that they know? And who trusts you? And why do you think they trust you? What words, phrases, and behaviors are present so that you might know that? So these are all conversations that you're having with your teenager to equip and empower them to build their own lens for what a healthy relationship is. I was treated like crap from a lot of people. You know what my mom used to say to me all the time? She used to say, "You've got to learn to build some self-respect or no one's ever going to respect you." And I'm thinking, you yell and scream at me, call me names, and hit me all the time. Where would I learn what self-respect is? I'm just saying. I'm letting people treat me like crap because that's what I think is normal, Mom. Okay? So, it is so important for you to talk about, how do you want to feel in a relationship? Like, if you had a magic wand, how would you want to feel in a relationship? And this isn't about judging any of your teenager's answers. You are simply asking open-ended questions for the purpose of helping them start to think about these things. So that you talk about, like, how do you feel? What do you like about that relationship? What would you change? What's your favorite parts? Like, you've got to ask open-ended questions, because if you're not helping your teenager, this is the problem with controlling. When you are controlling, you are not equipping and empowering your teenager to build that healthy lens of what relationship is. And I can bet you that your teenager knows, because they're not stupid. Your teenager knows you don't like their pick. And so long as they know you don't like their pick, it's not going to go well. Okay, I've got another story for you really quick. My girlfriend, her son came from a traumatic background with his dad, and was in the process of counseling and healing about that, but that was where he was coming from. Okay, he had low self-confidence, he didn't feel loved, and there was a lot of still residual stuff from his dad. This young man, who's an amazing kid, and my girlfriend is an amazing mom, he chose a girl who wanted to basically play house. Teenage pregnancy was glorified in her family. Her mom was a teen mom, and she supported her daughter to be a teen mom if that's what she wanted. So that was just a belief system that they had. My girlfriend's son, feeling unloved, feeling not good enough, and lacking confidence, loved this girl because she saw him as the dad, the provider. And that is big for young men. And he needed to feel that way. He wanted to be seen that way to fill his lack of confidence in himself. She wanted to be needed by him. She saw him as this strong, person who was going to take her in and help her build a family. And whether he was ready for that or not, it worked for him too. So my girlfriend did not vilify her, although my girlfriend was not a fan. She included her where possible. She asked a lot of questions and got curious. She did mention a few times her concerns about, apparently this young girl was open that she had already had one abortion and been pregnant once, but was seeking and quite willing to be pregnant again. And she mentioned that concern to her son a few times, that she was just concerned that if they were sexually active, that this may go down a road that he was not prepared for. And that was about it. Then her son kept pressing and pressing to have sleepovers. And my girlfriend said, no, based on what you're telling me that she wants to get pregnant, you're not having a sleepover. No, not in our house. She's welcome at our table. She's welcome to come with us on outings, but that's a no. And eventually the condom broke and they got pregnant. And my girlfriend did all of her processing alone, away from her son. And there was no blaming and shaming because it is what it is. And my girlfriend ended up fully supporting this young girl and her son to make a budget, to figure out what they were going to do, give them options, to talk through it, and let them know that as much as, she had her own emotional processing to do, this was on them. This was going to be hard, but she was going to be there to support them. In the end, this young girl on her own decided not to continue the pregnancy, was disowned by her family for doing so. And my girlfriend drove the two of them to the clinic, and my girlfriend healed this young girl on her couch for 3 days and loved her because she was kicked out of her house for ending the pregnancy. And again, my girlfriend said she would have loved the babies. She gave them choices. Anyway, long story short, you cannot control who your teenager chooses, but what you can do is do everything in your power to understand the emotional nuances and the underlying situation, their emotional situation that has them pick those people, to help have open-ended, non-judgmental, non-critical conversations, to develop their own lens, to equip and empower them to understand what a healthy, constructive relationship is, by also doing your best to model that with your own relationship with yourself and in your life as well. By talking about unhealthy relationships, talk about healthy relationships, talk about all of it, because that's how you connect with your teen and help them to pick people that at least you can live with, even if they're not the people you would have picked. All right, I hope this was helpful. Again, if this resonated with you and you want some help, if you hit the link in my bio here on Instagram, the Empowered Parent Mastermind, my signature program, is now available in a self-paced option payment plan. It's guaranteed with 4 live Q&As, and it's something that is absolutely going to give you those emotional and relational skills to change this trajectory for your teenager and your relationship with them, which is so critical. Taylor, you start those conversations now. Your daughter is old enough, you start those conversations now about what kind of friends does she like? What friends doesn't she like? Why? How does she feel around those people? How does she want to feel? What words does she use when she doesn't like what's going on? What words does she use to ask for what she needs? Now, so I believe your daughter is 7 or 8. Just saying that for everybody. That's a really good time to start talking about it right now. What does she see in you and your husband? What does she like about what she sees? What doesn't she like? Oh, ask the hard questions, but start now. Okay, I'm here every Thursday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. Thank you for joining me. This will be on my profile immediately after. This will also be on my YouTube channel. You can catch me on TikTok on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Pacific time. Again, here on Thursdays. And if you want any other help of any kind, please message me on Instagram at Allie Payne, and I would be very delighted to get you any resources I possibly can to help you and your teenager connect, to close the lost in translation gap, to build trust and respect in your relationship. I believe in you. You are a good parent, and you are both worth it. So thank you for joining me. Stay healthy and stay connected, everybody. Bye.